Hey everyone, welcome to the Summer YA Romance panel. Summertime is the epitome of romance and YA rom-coms, like everything romance oriented in my mind. So I'm so excited to be doing this panel and to feature some of my favorite reads this year period, and like also summer YA romance to go with the theme of this. Um, just a little bit about me. I'm Lily. I'm the moderator for this panel. I'm kind of on the internet as Utopia State of Mind, and that's all you need to know about me. Just a quick note about the safe space before we jump into author bios. I just wanted to obviously make a general statement that says that here we don't tolerate any harassment of any kind. Our goal, this is what I've written, is to create a safe space for us to chat about books, writing, and bubble tea. So know that if we find you engaging in any harassment or hate speech, you will be removed and blocked from the chat. So after that kind of public service announcement, I want to introduce everyone to the authors, where they will tell us a little bit about themselves and the books.
Hi, I'm Lila. I'm the author of the Mini Kim series for younger kids, and also my YA debut, which is I'll Be the One, a fun book about K-pop, and then Flip the Script, which is about Korean dramas. Flip the Script is about a Korean American actress who gets cast as the leading girl in like a K drama of the biggest K drama of the year, and everyone expects her to fall in love with the male lead, but she falls in love with her best friend and rival and female co-star instead.
I love that. That sounds awesome. Hi, I'm MK England. I'm the author of a couple of different queer novels. And the one we're here to talk about today is The One True Me and You, which just came out in March 2022. This is the story of the inevitable meet cute that happens when a hotel plays host to a small fandom convention and a teen beauty pageant in the same weekend. So a non-binary fanfiction writer and a lesbian pageant queen meet and sparks fly and things get complicated. And it's very short and light and fun. And I hear it makes you happy cry. It makes me happy cry every time. So if you need some good vibes this summer, then there's this. And I got a couple other things coming out. I have a middle grade coming out on Tuesday and a Firefly novel out middle of next month. So there's stuff, but this is the only like contemporary YA romance, I guess. Bye.
Yet. Never say never. I'm Adib. I wrote Darius the Great is Not Okay. I also wrote Darius the Great Deserves Better, which I accidentally knocked off of my desk as I was preparing my stack of books to show you all. So you'll just have to imagine that I'm holding it up in my hand TikTok style. And then I also wrote Kiss and Tell, which came out back in March. It's about the only gay member of a hit Canadian boy band as he navigates a really messy breakup, potential rebound romance, and what it means to be queer in the public eye.
Sorry, I couldn't unmute myself. I love books about boy bands. I'm Christina Forrest. I was not smart enough to get copies of my previous books to put them behind me, but I also wrote I Want to Be Where You Are and Now That I Found You, which are YA romances. And my most recent YA romance, which publishes on Tuesday. Oh yeah, Lily, do you have a copy of I Want to Be Where You Are? Okay, yay! That's my debut novel. It actually just turned 3 yesterday, plus 3 years ago. But Xyla and Kai is the story of a boy and a girl who, Xyla is a cynic, Kai is a hopeless romantic. They meet one summer while working together at an amusement park. They fall in love, and then they break up, and then they run away together while on their senior trip. And nobody knows why that happened since they were broken up. And so the story is a bit of a mystery. You figure out, all the things that went into it, but it's very much a story about first love and all the highs and lows.
Christina, my daughter is her little boyfriend is named Kai, and so she saw I was doing this event and she's like, oh, there's a character named Kai, and I was like, yes. So anyway, we like boys named Kai in this house. My name is Sarah Henning, And I'm the author of fantasy books and YA contemporary. They're all YA. The Sea Witch duology, The Princess Will Save You, and the 2 books that are after that. And then I have YA contemporaries called Throw Like a Girl, and the book I'm here to talk about is On How You Fall. There's 40. This one happens to be about a gymnast who is forced to quit at the age of 15 and feels like her life is over. And her older brother's best friend, Alex, decides he's going to basically give her a gym class and everything that she's missed in the last 10 years. And so they date a new sport every week for the summer, and sparks fly. So it's my little ode to gymnastics. I was a gymnast for 10 years, and I'm so excited to finally get to write a gymnastics book.
Listening to the books just makes me like so high-key obsessed all over again, but I'm gonna rein it in. I wanted to start off with the first question that I had, which was kind of a deep question, because I was thinking about kind of what love means to all of the characters and like how that's different from, start to finish kind of. So what do you think your characters look for as a sign of love, and what are their love languages? Because I just took this test like a couple months ago, and it's kind of changed how I think about myself.
Well, I can go first, even though I annoy myself when I do that. But for Hunter, he is very much a like physical touch love language. Like that's who he is. Whether it's like, hugging people or like grabbing their shoulders and giving them shoulder massages with consent, obviously. High-fiving his friends. Like he's just a very, he's a former athlete and now he's like a dancer and a singer. And so he's just very physically out there. And then his other love language is, of course, writing love songs. Because, what else are you going to do if you're in a boy band? And as far as what he looks for signs of love, I think he really he looks for chemistry, and he looks for people that like make him want to be better than he normally is. Which I think actually that's probably something I give a little bit of to every single character I write, because I think that's very important in love, is finding people that call you to your better self. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
I thought you were going to say poutine. Deep.
Oh, that's so hard. That's really, really hard to make. I personally am a food love language. But like you got to get a deep fryer. You have to have gravy going. You have to have a good source of cheese curds. It's a lot of work.
I would say both my characters, both Caroline and Alex, they like doing things for other people. Like that is definitely their love language, and they share that like to a fault, probably. Like you don't have to do anything for me is like kind of the refrain for both of them, for sure.
I think Zyla's interesting because she is very cynical. She is not looking for love. And so I don't think that she has ever asked herself that question, like, what is my love language? I don't think she knows. And that's something that she learns along the way. But definitely she's like an actions speak louder than words kind of person. She wants, like, regardless of what you say, to show her that you love her, so that way she can believe you and trust you. Kai is like very affectionate and like very outwardly extra in the way that he loves people. Like you would never doubt that he loves you because he just like throws it in your face all the time. And so I think that's the way that he loves people, very loudly. Yeah.
I think in The One True Me and You, for Kay, so much of the book is about them finding the right words that feel good for them, and that make them feel affirmed. So I really feel like Tegan kind of comes through in that way for them. And then Tegan, on the other hand, there's a point in the book where Kay really has a pretty like strong bad reaction to something and says some hurtful things. But instead of, saying I'm sorry, what happens instead is that Kay really shows up for Tegan in a way that really shows support instead of just saying it, being there in a big way, in a way that might make them kind of uncomfortable, in a way that pushes a boundary and says, no, I'm willing to be here for you. And then for both of them, I think what they look for, in love is that affirmation of who they are, like validation of you as a person. I see all of you, and I appreciate all of who you are. We don't have to say, well, this part of you is weird, or I don't understand this part of you, but you as a whole package, you're awesome.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true for my characters as well. Primarily because the script is set in Korea, where LGBTQ rights aren't a thing. Like there's no legalized gay marriage, so a lot of them are still closeted, and then a lot of them are kind of coming to terms with that identity themselves. So having someone to fully appreciate who they are is very important to them. In terms of specific love languages, they're all really different. I think for Hana, who's the main character of the script, it will probably be words of affirmation, because she loves like very determined quotes about like you can do it, or like seize the day. So she likes those corny quotes like that. And I think hearing those words back to her from partners, what she like appreciates the most. Minji, the love interest, the other girl, she is kind of a bit tough, like, and then she doesn't really say she doesn't really. I think she is more of like an action oriented person, so she definitely more acts of service. And then Brian, who's like the himbo that kind of rounds out the chaotic good trio. He's definitely more like physical touch, because he's kind of like rash with words and stuff, but like he's really affectionate to his friends and his lovers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that this whole concept of love language, I think, is so fascinating in the ways that, like, how you express love isn't necessarily also how you want to receive love. That to me was kind of like, whoa, eye-opening. I wanted to know, when does a love story start? Because it doesn't always necessarily start immediately. And I thought that was really interesting, especially in the variety of different relationships that are in this amazing panel, to kind of think about when does your like love story kind of start.
I can go first. I don't know how good of an answer this is, but I think the love story starts when they first meet, even if they're just friends, if they're enemies, if they're just like acquaintances, because it's all a part of the story. Like eventually it'll all be part of the story. Like this is where we met, this is what we first thought about each other, and those things inform how the relationship progresses. Um, so it seems like a very uninsightful answer, but I do think it starts when they first meet.
I don't think you're wrong. Like, for sure. I have characters that have known each other since, like, I mean, she was in diapers. They have known each other and been around each other, but they've had a buffer and her older brother, and are getting to know each other like as people without the brother in between them, and just seeing how they are as adults, as teenagers. I mean, you're different people as you get older, as you change, and navigating that sort of relationship is completely different than it was 10 years before.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say what Christina said. Like when they first meet, because I was thinking about my characters, and in Flip the Script, Hana and Minji are best friends before they become lovers. And I think even though it's a different kind of love, it is still part of the love story when they're still friends. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump on the same Z's train here. I do agree with that. But I do think you can also kind of find a transition point in most relationships too. And in the One True Me and You, it's a very compressed timeline. The whole event, the whole book takes place over the course of like 2.5 days. So they meet, they bump into each other and have that instant chemistry, but it's when they sit down and start talking to each other and learning about each other and sharing the things that are important to them and their interests and things like that, that they start to connect on a different level. And I think that's an important point in that timeline too.
I think it's really interesting that you asked, like, when does a love story start versus like when does a romance start? Because I do think, as a genre, there's a very specific answer for when a romance starts. But love is such like a big, all-encompassing idea, and not all love is necessarily even romantic love. And so I think, in that sense, like it's kind of a cop-out, but I think a love story starts whenever you decide it starts. And sometimes you don't know that the story has started until you're already in it, both in real life and I think, characters in books don't always realize that they're in a love story until they have that like, either or oh no sometimes. And I don't know, I think that's where I fall on that question.
Oh, that was a very romantic answer. I loved it.
Right. Thank you. Now, if only it would find me a boyfriend. That's fine. We're not here to talk about me.
I want to talk about some of interesting pairings for the books, because there were quite a lot of like very interesting pairings. So I had to kind of pick my favorites. I want to start off first with Flip the Script and Kiss and Tell, because both of them tackle kind of the difficulties of fame and show business. And so I wanted to know, could you talk about how your characters deal with this struggle between wanting to be authentic and also realizing the very real pressures to perform and to appeal to fans? And I know also that Kiss and Tell and Flip the Script also explore homophobia within these instances. Not instances, industries. And so how did you handle like the presentation of that within your books as well?
Yeah, so I think this actually came up with one of my other events, and I think what I said then is that Flip the Script is like very centrally located in like specifically the Korean entertainment industry. And the thing about being a celebrity in the Korean entertainment industry is that it's very different than being like a Western celebrity, where I feel like Western celebrities are kind of like more free to be themselves and more free to like do whatever they want. Like Miley Cyrus can post whatever she wants on her Instagram, or like Kim Kardashian. But Korean celebrities have this like it's kind of like a social contract, or like in exchange for getting the fan support, you need to act in a way that the fans approve of you. So I feel like I try to juggle that a lot with the script, because even though Hana and Minji and Brian really do want to be treated themselves, they have to overcome the barrier of the fact that like a lot of fans expected them to behave a certain way. And it's kind of like the whole book is kind of a juggling act where at first they do kind of do what everyone expects them to do, but in the end they flip the script, so they do what they actually want. So hopefully like I did a good job with that.
I think for me, as far as navigating like celebrity and authenticity, Hunter comes from a place of being aware that he has, as a white man, has a tremendous amount of privilege, and as a gay man, is oppressed in some ways. And so he's a teenager, so he's kind of just learning these concepts and just learning how to leverage his privilege to do good in the world, because at heart, he really does want to make the world a better place, not just for other queer kids, but just for everyone. But when you're young and when you're just learning, you do make a lot of mistakes, and Hunter certainly makes a lot of them, and it kind of takes a toll on him emotionally when he's being inauthentic. And eventually he reaches, are we allowed to swear on this?
I have no idea, honestly.
Perfect. Then I find it's better to ask forgiveness and permission. So I think like a lot of people do, Hunter eventually hits the fuck it and fuck around and find out phase of feeling like really terrible. He's like, I have to make a change, so I'm just gonna like be my whole self, and let someone else deal with the collateral damage. And thankfully he has people that will do that for him because he's rich and talented. But not everyone is like that, and I think his friends teach him that not everyone has those buffers, and that he has to be more careful. And as far as homophobia in particular, I think both in big industries and in real life, a big thing is just learning to set boundaries. Either that's removing yourself from spaces or removing people from your life. And hard as it is, I've had to remove people from my life in the past. And I might have to again, who knows? Sometimes people are garbage. For the most part, people are awesome, but sometimes people are terrible.
I just realized I didn't address the second part of the question. Sorry, I'm gonna jump a little bit. So specifically the homophobia element, definitely, like I said before, like Korea is a very homophobic society, and I think as celebrities they kind of have to navigate that as well. I think with that, what I kind of like, some people may say that as like, some people may say that as too optimistic. In fact, they have already have on Goodreads. But I wanted to write the book that was hopeful for progress rather than be all doomsday and like, oh, things will never change. Because I did the research that, like, you know, even though legally and like officially like these things are not like a thing, like there have been studies done with like people, especially young people, that have found that people are less homophobic. So I and there's a happily ever after ending my book because I want to write a story where like they, like Adib said, like it's like a push and like Adib said, like they have to navigate it, but also in the end they do what they expect is best for them rather than what they're expected to do.
Moving on to The One True Me and You and Xylan Kai, both of your romantic pairs kind of fall in love either like against the odds or in unexpected places. And so I wanted to know, how did you decide where to have their first meeting, and when you were thinking of the characters and the concept of your books, did one of the main characters or like come to you first? That's what I want to know.
So the concept of the book kind of had both main characters baked into it from the very start. You know, I knew I was going to have somebody from fandom world and somebody from pageant world. So they were both there from the start. And I needed a place where they could, you know, theoretically interact in a way that, you know, a place that where they would feel braver than they might normally. And so, you know, I've been to a bunch of different conventions, and I was kind of flipping through my mental catalog of, you know, where do you mingle with people that's not the hotel bar, you know, because they're teenagers. And one thing that a lot of conventions have is some kind of like, you know, karaoke night, or there's like a cosplay dance or something like that. So I decided to put in like a karaoke night. So there's a dark room, there's dancing, and it's an environment where, you know, people are away from home. They're in a new environment. They're in kind of a safe space that feels wholly separate from their lives. And so they have that opportunity to be a little braver and to be a little daring and try something different. So when they bump into each other at this dance, where in their normal everyday lives, they would absolutely be like, oh God, sorry, bye forever. You know, in this instance, they they take that opportunity to meet and see where it can go. And it's also, you know, I feel like a lot of queer and nerdy teens don't necessarily get to have an awesome, you know, high school dance experience depending on where they live. So it was also, you know, that space might be a place to kind of like challenge yourself. You wouldn't normally feel comfortable in that kind of space, but you can let loose a little bit in this sort of weird third space. Yeah.
I wish that my answer was as well thought out as yours. Because I by the time, you know, it gets like when you're promoting your book, you've written it like 2 years ago. And so I'm like, who came first? I don't remember. But what I do know is that like a lot of times my ideas come to me if I'm sleeping, or like if I'm like sometimes in the shower, if I'm daydreaming, whenever I'm doing something where my brain is like actively turned off, that's when an idea comes to me. And I sort of pictured these two teens at a bus station, and I knew that they were like running away. A bus station never makes it anywhere into the actual book, but that was like the jumping off point, that it was about two teens who were sneaking away. I didn't know why, but I was like really intrigued to figure that out. So they kind of came to me at the same time. And in a way, a lot of the aspects about Xylan Kai I pulled from a story that I was working on in grad school. And so they meet while working at an amusement park called Sailor Joe's. And that was the setting of a book that I wrote when I was in grad school. And I knew that I wanted them to meet in the summer, and they were going to meet at a summer job. So it'd be like this situation of forced proximity where they are not in the same social circles at all. So they would not have met otherwise, but they're sitting next to each other every single day. And so that's where their romance blooms. And I took that from another story I wrote. And in terms of like who maybe develops the fastest, I would say maybe Zyla, just because it was easier to get into her head because I was once a 17-year-old girl. So it's like her voice came to me a little bit more quickly. I feel like I'm losing track of the question, but yeah, so that's sort of how the two of them came to me, was just like I was like daydreaming a little bit.
And then the final pairing that I have for Kiss and Tell and It's All in How You Fall. I thought that friendship and sort of being vulnerable with our friends is like a really big theme in both of your books. And so I was wondering if you could talk about why you wanted to showcase that dynamic in a relationship, and also how you approach side characters, right? So if you're approaching a side character, I mean, I've never written, and I probably will never ever write, so I don't this concept of side characters is fascinating to me, and wondering if it's like I need a character to like do this, and so insert side character A. You know what I mean? Like how does that process happen? And that's for just my curiosity's sake.
Sarah, you should go first.
Okay, I'll go first. Thanks, Adib. So It's On How You Fall. Like, Caroline is in a really precarious, like vulnerable position from the very beginning. She starts off with basically the suggestion from this doctor that she needs to quit. Something's wrong with her back. She's like, no way. And then she basically face plants and lands in the ER, and finds out that she actually has a much bigger problem than she thought. And she's somebody who works out in a gym 35 hours a week. Her friends are tied in. Her best friend is there. Her like basically built-in older sister is there. And suddenly she goes from being around them all the time to like having to say goodbye to her dream and like the main spot where she sees her friends for an entire summer, like at the beginning of the summer. And so she is like on moping throughout the beginning of the book because she's just lost her life. Like, she literally says like, my life is over, and she's like, I'm not being dramatic, like I don't do anything else. This is my dream. This is like everything that I do. And so she's extremely vulnerable by the time Alex gets a hold of her and is like, I will teach you any sport, like you can need something to do. And like to the point where she's like, well, I have to make it up for you. Like, again, debt complex. She wants to do things for him. And so she decides she's going to set him up with her kind of de facto older sister, Sunny, because their pairing would be perfect. It would be perfect. You know, she's seen Emma. She's read the books. She knows exactly what to do. And she, you know, it's on paper. It's perfect. Like, get these two people together. It gives her something to do. She's going to find this sport. It's going to be fun, except that she ends up with this huge crush on him. And her friends are very concerned that, like, hey, you're hanging out with Nat's best bud. That's a little weird. Like, and you're going running with him and just hanging out with him for hours. You know, they definitely have some questions. But they realize that you know, she's in this weird spot. They're spending all this time together. She actually like actively doesn't reach out to her friends during the week because she knows where they are without her. And so so she is navigating quite a bit, and everybody's relationship in the book, everybody wants to support her, but they are also like walking on pins and needles this whole time. And as far as creating them, I meet my characters on the page. I am sort of a plotter pantser person. And usually, they do have something that they need to do. They walk into a situation, but I don't go, this person needs to do this for me and they need to have these characteristics. And because I think if you organically meet them, they become more of an organic character and they feel like real people. And then over the course of the book, you get to know them a little bit better. And then in revision, you know exactly who they are. So that's kind of how I approach my characters and their relationships, and not like they need to do this and I need to have somebody contrary here or anything like that. They all kind of naturally fill in, do what they're supposed to do.
I think for me, when I think back on my teenage years, they were defined by my friendships. For lots of reasons. One of them obviously being the closet. But I think even if I had been out, even if I had been dating, like my friends were so important to me, and they were like how I learned to understand myself as a person. And so that's something I find myself returning to book after book after book, is like, how do our friends shape us? And I think in particular, writing about cisgender boys, I'm very invested in dismantling toxic masculinity and showing what supportive and nurturing friend groups can look like. And so, and also I was literally writing about a boy band, and it was more fun if they were friends. I mean, I guess some people would think it would be fun if they all hated each other, but I do think that's a different book entirely. And as far as my actual process, I'm a very pantser as well. I never know what I'm doing, and it's bold of you to assume I have a process at all. But I often think of this talk that the fabulous author Sharon Draper gave that I heard back at, I think, gosh, it must have been 2014, where she described her writing as she's not creating characters, she's writing about people. And I think that was a really awesome brain switch for me to think of, instead of seeing characters as playing pieces to move about, instead just ask yourself, what's a realistic social circle for someone? Who are the kind of people that are just going to be in their orbit because of because of kind of the choices and consequences that their life has led them on. And I let that guide me. And then, much like Sarah, I learned so much more in revision. My first drafts are always really focused on the main character, and any side characters only really come into focus in subsequent drafts. Because my brain is only a tiny little squishy bean, and there's no room for that many people at once.
I love what Julian said when there's a comment that says, we want the follow-up Kiss and Tell Fallout book, One Direction style.
No, they're just going to hit 5 years, and they're going to kind of go, they're just going to go their separate ways. They're not going to blow up. There's no Zayn. Not that there's anything wrong with Zayn. I respect him as an artist. I'm glad he was taking care of his mental health by leaving the band, but there's no one that's just going to jet off and leave. Also, no one's going to become an anti-vaxxer like Liam, which that was really gross, but whatever.
Yeah, it would be great if our faves didn't go down that path. I would campaign behind that as well. By the way, also, if anyone has any questions, you can also drop them in the chat, and I promise I will try to come back for them. I wanted to ask another question about side characters on the theme of side characters. And I wanted to know that, I was wondering if you could write a novel for any of your side characters, who would it be? And did you have a side character that kind of snuck in at the last moment and kind of stole your heart?
Oh, I have a character that's been in both It's On How You Fall and For Like a Girl. His name's Ryan Roginski. He's the younger brother of my main character in For Like a Girl, and then he shows up in this book because he's the same age as these characters. And he is dying for his own book, and I get asked about him all the time. So, Little Brown, if you want to buy another book, sure, I can do one for you.
I actually had a funny experience when we were sending the One True Me and You out for blurbs. One of the authors who blurbed the book, Annabeth Albert, sent the blurb back and said, by the way, I would love a side book about Miss Oregon, who is one of the other, pageant girls in the book. And she's the pageant girl who basically like hides in the main character's room reading doorstop or fantasy novels and then makes out with, one of the other fandom girls at the end. Spoiler, not spoiler, very minor detail. And I had never given it any thought until that very second when she said that. And then I went, oh no, I need to write a Miss Oregon book. That would be great. So I did. So that's, I'm going to, get that proposal going and turn that into my editor. And hopefully that'll be my option book with Wednesday Books. So cross your fingers. It's nerdy and it's gay and it's great. So I love it. Hopefully they'll love it too.
I think for me, Hunter's bandmate Ethan ended up being my favorite side character. I kind of knew, there are certain archetypes in boy bands, and there's like a surprising amount of like research on the topic. I actually like read a bunch of articles and a whole book about like the history of boy bands. And so Ethan was started as like the archetype of the jokester, the funny one. He's the one who always renames the group chat constantly. But as I wrote him, I was surprised by how like deeply vulnerable he is, and that like despite having kind of a string of failed relationships behind him, he's actually a romantic at heart. And so I do think it'd be really fun to like dive into who he is and how he got to be that way. As far as like, did anyone creep up like late in the process? I don't think so. I think aside from some of the like, internet assholes featured in the interstitial segments, like all the characters in the actual narrative of the book were pretty much there from the first draft, just maybe in different quantities.
I can't really choose, but if I had to choose, I would say Minji, who's a love interest, and flip the script. I think I definitely went to flip the script, telling Hana's story, but I will say that a lot of the reason why I want to delve deeper into Minji's story is TikTok, because a lot of the like the baddie, like bad girl like sound, I'm like, oh, this is a Minji song. So I started like making for those of you who don't know, I like basically started like making TikToks doing character skits as my characters, and I will say Minji's are my favorite because I can have the most personality, and I would really love to write a book about Minji and her side of things.
Well, in Zyla and Kai, the side characters play like a bit of a bigger role than maybe some of my first couple books. They each, because Zyla and Kai are missing in the present chapters are told from the different perspectives of like their friends and classmates who are wondering where they are, and the past chapters are from the perspective of Zyla and Kai as you see them fall in love. And I think that Zyla's best friend Beatrice and Kai's best friend Jamal would be, I have actually thought about writing a book about them because they hate each other immediately. Like when they first meet, they're first introduced, at first they really like each other and they're like kind of flirting a little bit, but then immediately, like 5 minutes in, like they rub each other the wrong way and it's like just beef from there on out. I thought that they would probably make like a fun book, but as far as the characters who snuck up on me, Kai's ex-girlfriend Camille plays an interesting role in the story and the way that their relationship unfolds. And she kind of starts off as like, I mean, she's like the villain. She kind of is the villain of the story. But I think that the most interesting villains are ones that sort of operate in the gray area. Like they do bad things, but then when you find out why it is that they're doing what they're doing, you're like, oh, I don't support you, but I get it. I think that she was actually the most fun side character to write because it was like, I mean, we are nothing alike, but the things that she does are kind of like, ugh. But it was like fun to write about someone who's so calculating and would do, maybe some not so nice things to people, just so that she can meet her goal. I don't know if I would write a whole book about her, but she definitely became someone who I really enjoyed writing. So.
Yeah, maybe it can just be like a bonus kind of newsletter
Yeah, I was gonna say
exclusive.
maybe I'll do like a newsletter chapter.
For the people who are interested. I just wanted to remind everyone that the giveaway link I posted in the chat, but I'm going to post it again just because I should do that multiple times. I wanted to switch over to some questions that we got, which I thought were really interesting. And then we can go back to some of mine because I had a few that I really actually like desperately need to know. So one of the questions was, what was your favorite romantic scene to write in your book? This is from Julian, and Julian would like to know this.
I'll go first. That's a great question, Julian. All of my favorite romantic scenes are spoilers because, like, like they happen at those moments where like important things are happening. But there is this one scene that I feel like I can talk about with Xyla and Kai at homecoming. Kai is a very popular kid. He gets voted homecoming queen. Xyla's very antisocial. She goes with him as his date, but someone else gets voted homecoming queen and they're like dancing together. And then Kai stops his dance to go find her in the crowd and bring her out into the middle of the dance floor. And it was so sweet. It's one of my favorite scenes that I've written like ever. So I think maybe that one for me.
Mine is only, I think, a mild spoiler, but sort of toward the middle of the novel, Hunter and his love interest, Kayvon, are like, just like kind of cuddling in their green room at an arena, just like getting ready for the show and just chilling and, being tender with each other. And Hunter's bandmates prank them by hijacking the intercom system of the venue and playing the saxophone line from A Careless Whisper at like full volume. And I just feel like that's so typical of like the way your friends will just prank you when you're like really trying to get with someone. And it just was really fun to, I don't know. I think cuddling is like very cute and tender. And I like writing about that and then combine it with a prank. And it was really fun.
I'm going to be less cute, I guess, and just go with the first kiss right in the middle because there is, all of this like tension and it heats up fairly quickly because this is a whirlwind weekend romance. So things move very quickly for these two. And it's one of my favorite scenes in the book, and the queer panic that immediately follows is also excellent. So I really enjoyed those scenes.
I'd say I got to write a fireworks scene, which I never really thought I would do. In fact, I like never stay up late enough for the fireworks show, and but it is very romantic fireworks, and this is before the characters like have admitted anything, and so it's definitely quite charged, and I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, my favorite scene actually happens before like anything romantic happens as well. There's a scene where Hana and Minji are escaping from paparazzi, and they have to get on Minji's motorcycle, and they're speeding down to the road in Seoul. And that's the scene. Not only was it fun to write because motorcycle scene, but I loved it because that was a scene where emotionally Hana realizes that like she likes Minji as more than just a friend.
Okay, and another question. We have this one from Kat. Kat wants to know, what was your favorite non-romantic relationship to write in your book?
I hate to choose between side characters because writing friend groups is one of my favorite things about writing, period. But I really loved the side character Jess, who is one of the pageant girls in the book, and she is Tegan's best friend. And I adore her because like I feel like she has so much going on off screen that has nothing to do with any of the characters or anything that's relevant to the story at all, but she is one of those pageant girls who is like really ambitious and deeply motivated and has a cause that she is supporting, and she's very like a huge climate change activist, and she uses like her pageant stuff as a platform for advocating for climate justice, and she's a big science nerd, but in a way that's like, I don't know, ambitious. I loved writing her, and I wish she had gotten more screen time, but the book is just so short and so tightly focused on the two main characters that, you know, she kind of has to go off and do her own thing. And then, you know, unfortunately ends up having to cover for Tegan a lot because Tegan is making bad decisions that, you know, put her pageant career at risk and everything. And so she ends up having to cover for her a lot. Which is, you know, Tegan's very lucky to have a good friend like that who's willing to do that instead of letting her burn.
I really like friend groups as well. I think for this group was fun because it was my first published book with like a strong friend group. I dubbed them the chaotic good trio because it kind of like very much summarizes the energy of the very queer, very chaotic friend group. Yeah, I think that would be my. I think I actually like that more than the romantic relationship in the book.
I really liked writing the friendship between Zyla and her best friend Beatrice. Beatrice is just like the most glamorous character I've ever written. She's rich. Her dad is French. She has like a restaurant in Paris. Her mom, what does her mom do? Her mom has like basically she's like a furniture. She makes her own furniture things. She has furniture stores everywhere. And Beatrice just is like the most like she's kind of bougie, but she owns that. And I think she's just a very supportive friend. And you know, when I was in high school, my most important relationships were with my best friends, who I'm still best friends with today. And I put a lot of that support system into Zyla's friendship with Beatrice. So.
I guess to pick something a little bit different than everybody else, because I mean, I love my little friend group, but I had fun writing the older brother, Nat. He is sort of a jackass, like an extreme jackass, but a supportive jackass. And he just wants Caroline to see it his way. And he tries his best and kind of comes through by the end of the book. I think people like him. Maybe not so much at the beginning, but he was unlike any character I'd gotten to write before. Like he's 5'4" of vein. He's the world's shortest like varsity point guard, and he is very proud of that. So I had a great time.
I'm back. I was trying to hit the look at the comments, and I accidentally hit the login button instead. And I'm like, I'm already here. Did I miss anything? Should I give my answer now? Okay, sorry. I feel like I do that like once a StreamYard. Anyway, my favorite. I'm also going to be contrarian. I really liked writing Hunter's relationship with his ex-boyfriend because it was really fun to just like really dig into like what it means to have been in a long-term relationship and then have it end, and like the ways you can hurt each other on purpose or on accident. And I don't know, it felt like a really human and necessary thing to write, and so it was challenging at times, but was really fulfilling to be writing.
Okay, we have another question. Were there any songs you listened to while writing your books?
This will surprise no one. A ton of One Direction, basically their entire discography. But also, anytime I need to like get really romantic, I would put on the theme song for the Chinese drama The Untamed, which just always puts me in the mood for like writing about romance, because it's a very romantic show, even though there's no mouth kissing at all.
I have a whole joke about like show tunes in my book. So Agony from Into the Woods is like, or The Princess or Julian, that's my little song for this book.
My answer is boring. I must write in total silence. So no, I do not listen to any music at all because it's immensely distracting.
Scandal.
I don't write to music either. I listen to it like around writing.
That's so funny because I'm the opposite because I hate drafting. So when I draft, I need music to drown out all the thoughts. And then I revise kind of like I think I revise mostly in silence. But yeah, when I'm drafting, I'm like always like have the music all cranked up, a lot of like energetic K-pop. So yeah, for the script, I listen to a lot of like Twice and Mamamoo, which are K-pop girl group bands. Yeah.
So I used to not be able to listen to music while I was writing, unless I was at a coffee shop. The coffee shop I used to go to would blast techno, so I would have to listen to something else to like balance it out. But I actually created like a 70 song playlist for Xylan Kai because it was easier. It was just all love songs. Like any love song, I asked all my friends, "What's your favorite love song?" And I would just add it to this playlist. But now that I'm looking at it, I don't know if I actually listened to any of these while I was writing. Like I would listen to them while I was going for a walk or like going for a bike ride or something, like when I was thinking about the book. But I mostly draft to the Pride and Prejudice 2005 soundtrack because it's music, it's a blocks out everything else, but there are no words. So I feel like it's not distracting me from the words that I'm trying to write. And I actually recently started writing to the season 2 Bridgerton playlist too. Anything that's like instrumental, I can write to. But if someone's like singing or rapping, it's like it gets in the way of what I'm trying to say in my head. So.
I feel like I also, it's funny that your answer is really funny to me because when I was writing my thesis, I feel like I only listened to the Pride and Prejudice 2005 soundtrack or dubstep, like one of the two. So I feel like that would have been, those are interesting genre mixes. The question that I really wanted to get to, and I'm glad that we did, because I wanted to know if your characters were writing their problems to Chicken Soup for the Soul, which I don't know if that's like still going on. It was going on very much when I was a teen and like reading kind of anthologies of letters of Chicken Soup for the Soul. What would their aliases be? Because I always wondered like who comes up with those. I don't know who comes up with the aliases, but you can come up with your main character's aliases.
I actually never like read a single Chicken Soup for the Soul, cause they just write in and then like it's any their name they put in like little alias. Is that what's going on here? But okay.
Yeah, I don't know how to just, I can't think of, obviously I can't think of any now off the top of my head, but it'll be like, dear, oh gosh, what will it be? I don't know. Does anyone else have an example?
So I don't remember the aliases. I do remember reading Chicken Soup for the Soul, but it's kind of, my understanding is it's kind of like when you like I don't know if anyone is a fan of The Cut's like one of my favorite magazines, but they like if you write to them for like advice, like they'll be like unlucky in love, you know, like is that what you mean? Like that kind of thing?
Yeah. Or like, I don't know. Obviously I can't think of a single like good alias at the moment, but yeah, something that is a little bit catchy, but also kind of, you know, gets the vibe of what the problem is. And I feel like they're really short normally. Like they're less than 5 words normally, I feel like.
Okay, I think I got this. I think K would be non-binary in North Carolina because they love them some alliteration for these names. And Tegan would just be queer queen, I think.
I think Hunter is just edgy enough that he would use his drag name, which is Little Red Hiding Wood, because he's a redhead. And he would probably be like, yeah, no one will ever know it was me because he's a teenager. And sometimes that whole risk assessment center just doesn't quite function all the way.
I can't think of anything cool, but I think that Xyla would probably just be like a love cynic, maybe, or like something like that. And I think Kai has this nickname that he hates called Lover Boy because he's been in like a million relationships. So I think maybe he would just call him an unwilling lover boy. Maybe that would be his nickname.
I think all 3 of my characters would use confused but my friend because they all develop feelings for each other.
I think Caroline would be starting over. I mean, that's her whole thing. And I don't know about Alex. Like um, three sport king. Like he wouldn't call himself that. But if Nat were writing in for him, that's what he would call it.
Okay. I want to do some like lightning fire ones, or I don't know what it's called, lightning round ones, basically where it's just your main character's favorite blank, right? So I had a few because I wanted to know, but your main character's favorite rom-com movie.
Clueless.
I actually thought about this one ahead of time, so I actually have an answer. For Tegan, it would be But I'm a Cheerleader, obviously. And for Kay, I think they would love both Love, Simon and Booksmart. I don't know if you can call Booksmart a rom-com, but I think they would like fiercely identify with that wanting to let loose so badly.
I think deep down in his heart, Hunter would actually love to, once he retires from music, star in a queer version of The Cutting Edge. That's exactly like that's his like dream project.
I don't think Hana would be that big into rom-com movies. She'd be more into K-dramas. If she were to choose like an old K-drama, You're Beautiful, because it has like a lot of like very slapstick, ridiculous rom-com vibes, and it's the type of humor that she really likes.
I think that Kai would really love Love and Basketball, which I don't think is a rom-com. It's definitely just like a romance. I hate to say this, and I don't feel this way myself, but Zyla doesn't like love stuff like that, and so she probably wouldn't. But if she had to, she would like When Harry Met Sally.
I would love a queer, The Cutting Edge, like anything, any format, like musical soundtrack, movie, TV series, book, like anything. That would be my dream. Okay, your main character's favorite falling in love montage song. You know, like the song they play when, it's years in the future and they're like, this is how we fell in love. And then it's that song. What is that song?
I think Hunter would pick You and I from One Direction because I think that'd be a really great montage song. Also conveniently gender neutral.
For Hana, it would be Twice's The Feels. I mean, all of Twice's like a lot of their songs are about like falling in love, and I feel like it'd be appropriate. She find it very appropriate to her situation.
I'd say Taylor Swift. I think he knows. Super cute.
I would say Prototype by Outkast.
So my knowledge of pop music has massive gaps, and generally, like I just don't have like a mental catalog of song titles and artists. But I do feel like The One True Me and You has big like Closer by Tegan and Sara vibes. So not necessarily a falling in love song, but I do think the vibe fits.
I think that would be a good montage song. I would like that as a montage song. And so now on the flip side, their favorite breakup song, like the song they put on when they like cry in the car, that's the one.
I have to go Tegan and Sara again because it's like literally the only songs that can come into my brain apparently. I love The Con. I don't know that it's necessarily like a breakup song, but it's like that, I'm gonna manipulate you with my tears kind of song. So I dig it for this situation.
I actually think Hunter wouldn't pick a favorite breakup song because he's only really had the one breakup and it really gave him like writer's block for his own music. And so I think he would definitely like just be miserable in silence.
This might be a little bit dated for Violet and Kai because they're like younger than me, obviously. But I think that they would both really like "You Got It Bad" by Usher. I think that's a great breakup. The tone of it, when you listen to what he's actually saying, he's talking about how much he's in love with this person, but the video and the vibe of the song feels like a breakup song, and so I think that's what it would be.
So I don't pick Agony again. I would say All Too Well, the 10-minute version. Really dig in.
I would pick or Hannah would pick "Let's Kill This Love" by Blackpink because it's a very in your face and confident song, even though it's about like a breakup.
Yeah, I just asked specifically about, I guess, like the crying in the car thing, because I've done that. And my song of choice was Yellow by Coldplay. Very, very visceral memories coming back to me right now. To end on a happy note, why don't can you share your main character's favorite romance reads? So, what would they be reading if they were reading romance or romantic books?
I think that Zyla, Kai doesn't. He's not a huge reader. I don't know if he would. He reads like one specific. He reads history novels, like nonfiction is his thing. So I don't think that he probably wouldn't answer this question. But I think Zyla would be a huge fan of 7 Days in June by Tia Williams, which is an adult romance novel that came out last year. I think that she would just like eat that book up.
So I think that Kay is a fan fiction reader and writer. So I think that books that read like fan fiction would very much appeal to them. So of course, If This Gets Out would clearly fall into that category. I also, and I'm not just saying this because Julian is here, so shush. But I think they would love the like nerdy aspects of Julian's latest book, which I'm gonna suddenly blank on the title. Right Where I Left You is what it's called. And I think they would really like identify with that, nerdy queer vibe there. And Tegan, I think, would love She Drives Me Crazy by Kelly Quinlan. But the ultimate one, I think, would be You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. That's a great read for Tegan.
I'm going to say Home Field Advantage by Dahlia Adler. It's out next week because it's about athletes and love.
Hannah's very big into webtoons, so she probably she likes reading like rom-commy webtoons on her phone.
Everyone already stole all of mine. But I do think, yeah, I think Hunter would definitely enjoy a good Julian Winters novel. Yeah, they make people happy.
So that brings us to the end of all of our questions. I mean, it's not just to bring to the end of the questions, because I had many more questions, but it brings us to the end of our time together. Reminder that all of the books, the links for bookshop.com are below in the description. Oh, I will put the giveaway link as well one more time. And then, by the way, the giveaway closes in a week, optimistically, give or, plus or minus 2 days based on my life. But anyway, I hope that you all have a really great reading day, week, month, year. And thank you to all the authors for chatting with us. Thank you to everyone for being such active chat members and also for asking questions and just having a really great time with all of us. And I had a really fantastic panel with everybody. So bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here.